Welcome, everyone. I'm Jeffrey Goodman, Director of Marketing and Development for the YMCA of Northwest Louisiana, and we're here at 318 Latino Studios for Shreveport-Bossier, my city, my community, my home. And I absolutely can't wait to have today's discussion. Our guests are Sonja Bales and Jason Rowland.
Good morning.
Great to have y'all.
Yeah.
Good morning, Jeff.
Thanks for being here on a Saturday. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. We appreciate you.
Absolutely. Well, for folks out there, we have an incredible team here. Jason, you come from a family deeply rooted in public education. On January 1st, 2024, you became the superintendent for Bossier Schools after serving as assistant superintendent of administration and personnel for Bossier Schools since 2019. And you've hit the ground running, to say the very least. We'll try to cover some of the high points, of which there are many. One of your key initiatives was the Empowering Principals Mentoring Program. And so my first question is, talk to me some about this, if you could.
Well, first of all, thank you for having us this morning, and it's certainly an honor to be on your show today. And I'm blessed to have a great partner with me that really we do things together and really have tried to elevate what's going on in Bossier Schools. But as far as our Empowering Principals Program, when I became assistant superintendent, I know I spent a lot of time working with principals on things that seemed to be what I would consider we should have probably known, but based off of experiences or based off lack of experience, let me say that we decided that we needed some type of internship, some type of mentoringship for young principals. And what I mean by that is early in their career. So our first year, we started with first and second year principals that had not had an opportunity to really, that really didn't have a lot of experience in leadership, in administration. And so the concept of it was to take the principal through the seasons of the year. So, for example, in our August EPP meeting is what we called it. We, again, first and second year principals, we would go through what to expect in August, things to look for, things that...
Let me interrupt one sec. Is this happening, has school started, or is this happening in the summer before school starts?
It starts when we begin school, and then as we begin our monthly principal meetings, we either have these meetings before or after. So we just have some personal one-on-one time, small group, where the principal cohort in of itself can collaborate with themselves. But we would take them through the season or the year of being that principal, what they're going to face. And so in August, we talk about, well, here are the challenges. First of all, you got to get all your personnel stuff. And these are, for example, high school principals, you got to make sure you have your jamboree queen ready to go. You got to have, all the things that are going on as you begin to ramp up into the school year. And then in September, we would go through, what's going to happen through that month. And then all the way through until we get to, what we call the dog days of the school year, which is really around the month of March. It seems like, man, we've been in this for a while. We're so far in, we can't turn around and go back, and we still can't get to the finish line yet. And so it was just an opportunity to help them, prepare them for what was coming in small increments, in small segments. And so the second year we just did then the first year principals, and we've kept doing that since then.
And I would imagine too, it sounds like a remarkable program and so important. I would imagine, like many things, a key aspect of it is just them networking too, getting to kind of share stories in the trenches with one another as they're going through this shared experience.
Well, by and large, collaboration is a big part of what we do. We have 3 core principles, and that's one of them. And so a lot of times we would pitch an idea of, this is what you're going to face. How are you going to handle it? And collectively, they would answer their question.
Yeah. And just, them being able to lean on each other and probably get to know one another better and be able to call each other outside of work and say, hey, are you dealing with this, or how are you addressing this? I think all of that is probably invaluable for them.
And so the setup and design of it was this. I was a former high school principal.
At Airline, right?
At Airline for 9 years. I was an assistant for 10, so I had a lot of experience on that end of it.
And a baseball coach,
And a baseball coach way back in the early years. But I had a middle school principal in there as well, a veteran principal, and an elementary principal in there as well. So I had all three grade bands covered. And so where I may not have as much experience in the elementary world, the lady I had helping me at that time, who is now our assistant superintendent of administration, she filled my role. She could really lead and help out in areas that where she had experience. Same for the middle school concept.
Such an important program. Well, great work there. Sonja, how lucky Bossier Schools is to have someone like you. You've been the Public Relations Liaison for more than a decade after spending 20 years in television news. You've been heavily involved in community service and nonprofit work and are an Athena Award nominee and Virginia K. Shehee Most Influential Woman honoree and a recipient of the Clyde Fant Memorial Award. So my question for you is just talk to me some about your role with Bossier Schools.
Sure.
And did I get your title right?
Well, it just recently changed,
Okay,
but
so
yeah,
yes,
you were correct
me.
at the time.
Okay,
Communications and Media Officer. I'm in year 14 now at this point. Time has flown since coming to work for Bossier Schools, and I absolutely love it because, your show is my city, my hometown, my home, my community, and I have been born and raised here. There's a lot of pride here in being able to return to Bossier Schools where I was educated and to be able to be the communications and media officer. There's now an overused quote, if you will, that it takes a village to raise a child, and that's true also when it comes to a school system, because it takes a community to support a school system and for it to, reflect that strength. So my position, well, I'll go back to the textbook definition, first of all, of what public relations really is, and that's cultivating mutually beneficial relationships between an organization and other partners. And so that is part of my role, is to let our public and our organizations, our leaders know what's happening within the four walls of the schoolhouse. Because unless you have a child or a grandchild that attends a certain school, you might not know what happens at a school or certainly across the district. Every school district has a story to tell. And unless someone is there to tell your story, your narrative, someone else is. And it may not always be the one that you want to tell. And so that's why I think that it's an important role to be able to voice that, to let people know what your strengths are, how you are elevating the teaching profession, how you are positioning and educating students to make a difference and to go out into the world, whether it be in the workforce or go on to college, and then, be our leaders of tomorrow. So,
and what your roadmap and what your priorities are.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that doesn't just happen organically, if you will, for your community to necessarily find ways to support its school district. And I'll give you a case in point. So today, while we are recording this podcast, after we leave, we're going to one of our big school supply drives. It's being hosted by the United Way. It takes community partners like that to be able to help us be able to supply our students and also our classrooms with the supplies that some of our families might not be able to, help with. And the same goes with the Bossier Chamber of Commerce. They've held a school supply drive for us. We have a church organization that has helped us with thousands of school uniforms. And I could cite so many different examples of the ways that our community pitches in to, strengthen our school system.
Love that. And you're the perfect person for this.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely. The two of you oversee a wonderful podcast entitled On the Record with Bossier Schools. Talk to me about the genesis of this project and why it's such an important part of your work.
Well, this was your brainchild.
Well, Jeffrey, much like what you're doing, I watch a lot of podcasts as well, and so I listen to a lot of different things that I'm trying to understand how the communication space works now with our younger generation. Sonja and I were just in Washington just last week, and we went to a lot of different sessions that talk about how to communicate with a variety of generations. And so, with all due respect to the younger generation, they're not going to read much. Okay, it's got to be short, but they will listen. They will watch, they will listen, and they will, as they're driving, as they're doing other things. And so, as I became more kind of adapting to that as well, I just thought about our opportunity as a school system to dive into the digital media space as well and try to give more, communicate and reach more people about what's actually happening in our school system. And like Sonja said, we have a tremendous story to tell, and we want to be the ones to tell it. So that's the purpose, and that's really how we began the process of developing this. So I pitched the idea to Sonja and to Andrea Schwartz, and they just ran with it, and I just do what I'm told now. So
and I think, if I'm not mistaken, if I get anything wrong today, y'all correct me, but if I'm not mistaken, I think y'all are in season 4, so this was your brainchild actually main superintendent days. This is
correct.
while you were the assistant that you first came up with this idea.
And our superintendent, Mitch Downey at the time, who hired me, gave his blessing to this. We would have never done this without his support. And he thought it was a good idea, and he just let us roll with it. And so while I was an assistant, we began the process. We began our podcast, and now it's an evolution and really growing into something that we probably didn't think or imagine.
And I think it needs to have a new quote that I didn't mention behind it too, which I've heard you say. It's not just a podcast any longer; it's an award-winning podcast.
Oh, thank
right?
you. Yeah, we're very, very proud. So when we were in Washington, D.C., we were there for the National School Public Relations Association conference, and we were awarded for digital excellence in podcasting. And, they say that imitation is the truest form of flattery. So we're excited because a lot of districts throughout the nation have taken notice of our podcast and came up to us and asked, how do we do it? How do we get it started? We have seen other school districts throughout Louisiana wanting to also, launch a podcast of their own, because as Jason just mentioned, it's another communication platform for us to be able to get our story out. Not only do we just talk about what's happening, at the school level, but we also talk about public education as a whole and, some of the challenges that we face from the state level, from the national level. And that has been well received. And, as it's not just people listening to them locally. It's statewide and nationally as well, being able to get your voice out there.
And tell people the best way to access it or the best way to find it.
On YouTube, just look up On the Record with Bossier Schools, and we would love for you to like and subscribe, so that way you get a notification every time that one of our podcasts drops. So we are bi-monthly. We just had the first one go out this past week, and we'll have another one out soon.
And I watched it. It was great. And are they typically, this one was maybe 20 minutes long. I think some of them are maybe in the 10, 15-minute range.
Yeah,
they all vary.
It varies. This one was, of course, the start of season 4, and we had big news to talk about because we were there in Washington, D.C., and we had the opportunity, which was just incredible, to be able to go to the Capitol, interview the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. So that was the thrill of a lifetime. But also, not only were we at INSPRA for the Digital Award for Podcasting, but you don't want me to spoil that. Okay, I won't bring that up yet.
Yeah.
Jeff, I want to mention one thing about while we were at the conference. I attended a session that was targeted for superintendents and CMOs. And so Sonja, she went to a different session. So we were trying to cover a lot of bases, right? Sure. And we spread our wings so we could get a lot of different information. So I went to a session. There were over 100 superintendents in this session. So 100 different school districts all over the country. And the main speaker was a superintendent from a school system a little north of Chicago. And the first question she asked, how many school districts that are represented in the room, how many of you have a podcast? And so I was curious, and so I raised my hand, and then I looked around, and then she called out the number, and there was 4.
Wow.
And so what it did was, and I came back and I shared with Sonja, I said, this validates the work that we're doing, that we are out in front and we're doing things that others are trying to get to be able to do. And that is, to me, that's reticent of our school system. We want to stay out in front, and we want to be a guiding light. And,
I love that.
And to do things that others want to imitate. And look, we're not going to, hoard anything. We will share anything because we want all school systems to be successful, public school systems across the state.
That's amazing. I love that. I read that approximately 13% of your students are from military families. Tell me how you have to think about your military students in a customized way, as well as how you have to think about and approach your relationship with Barksdale.
Sure.
Well, I think in the past 5 years, our relationship with Barksdale has strengthened to the point to where we are in constant contact. We try to meet every need of every military child that we have. We have our military liaison, our school's family manager, that she helps us with Barksdale. She developed and found this Purple Star program that we began to implement in Bossier Schools. Now, we have 35 schools, I mind you, in our parish, and 28 of our schools are Purple Star schools. This is a state-recognized recognition where you are committing yourself to serving your military students. We take a tremendous amount of pride in that relationship. The previous base commander that just left Monday, as a matter of fact, and we had a change of command, we had a tremendous relationship, and things that they needed, we respond to immediately. And things that we need, they do as well. And so the partnership and how we support them has never been stronger. I'm an active member in Barksdale Forward. I'm an active member in the MAC, the Military Affairs Council. And so I don't take that responsibility lightly. I have a deep affinity for the military, for Barksdale, and I realize the significance of that Barksdale Air Force Base plays in Bossier Parish, the largest employer. It's the second most powerful base in the world, and so to me that's something that deserves quite a bit of attention.
And I know it's obvious, but I just want to mention it because it wasn't really that obvious to me until I started preparing for our discussion. Just military students in general are a little different, just because they're so transient, and they'll come in after being somewhere else for a few years, and a certain school already has their friendship groups formed and their cliques, and so they're coming in, starting a new school in a new city, or starting even a school in mid-year, and so they're a special, unique situation that you have to think about differently because their life is different from anyone who isn't military.
Absolutely. And that's why, years ago, we saw the need for a full-time military services manager to help, first of all, families navigate the school system when you are coming at all different times of the year with, just entry, with testing, grades, immunizations, records, all of that. But also, we have what's called the S2S program, that student-to-student program. And it is geared toward the military child, where we will have, students from that school who are part of S2S who just wrap their arms around our military-connected children, as well as other students who are coming to our school system new, to where they don't know anyone. They don't know, where's a good place to go hang out after school, and just kind of helping them, helping guide them about the community, where to go, and just kind of getting them locked into a peer group, having somebody just to sit with at lunch that day. I mean, that's huge, as we know, as kids ourselves, you always want to be able to have a buddy to be able to sit with and be able to talk with. And so this really just kind of, again, wraps our arms around them and gives them, an instant connection.
And strengthens our bond with the military students and the military families.
Absolutely.
When I was a principal at airline, I was always amazed by this, because every time we'd have a military child or a group of students where they just transferred in or whatever, I would meet with them and the parent, and just out of just good nature and wanting to make sure they felt welcome. But we never had to tell our kids, the students that had been at Airline, we never had to say to them, look, we need you to do this or do this with this kid. It was organic. And that's what makes our students in Bossier Parish very special and different, is that it's not like, oh, they're new, it's not like that at all. You're a military student? Oh, come on, let's go. And they would just grab them and take them and just embrace them. And it was really, really, really refreshing to see.
Yeah. In fact, just the other night, we had a military family information night. We host something every summer right before the school year begins for those that did transition over, the summer, just to be able to introduce them to our district administration, their principals of the schools that they'll be attending, and just give them the chance to ask those questions about bus transportation, lunch, child nutrition, nursing, making sure that their shot records are in place, and find out what they need, again, so that transition is smooth from day one.
So critical.
Well, there's no limit to the things that we'll do as a school system to serve the military student, because their families are serving our country. That's right. Anything that if they have a course, if they're transferring in from Fairfax, Virginia to Bossier Parish, and the child was taking a course, we'll find a way to make sure that course is available for that child. There's nothing that our school system will not do to provide for their educational experience and to make it a good one.
I love that. And I mean, we're grateful to you for making them feel at home, because they are such an important piece of this community and making this entire region work.
We're very proud of our relationship with Barksdale. Many years ago, we worked with leadership as well as with the Department of Justice to be able to offer students who live on Barksdale Air Force Base school of choice, to where they can go to the schools that they might select, but also those students that live on, as we commonly refer to as the East Reservation, which is more toward the Houghton area, they're being able to now just bus straight over through that gate at the Bodcaw Gate and attend our Houghton schools. And that's been a real win also for our military community as well as for Bossier Schools. And
we're expecting even now to be able to strengthen the relationship. The new base commander, Colonel Chris Kane, he is a graduate of Airline. His sister teaches in Bossier Schools now. His mom taught at Airline in Bossier Schools. I think his kids, they've been in Bossier Schools. So he has deep roots to our school system. And so we're just going to continue to allow that relationship to strengthen and be something that can go on and on even after we're gone.
Yeah, well, thank you. We need that. My next question is, talk to me about the Monday Morning Memo and give me an example or two of what that sounds and looks like.
Well, so I started doing this when I was a principal at Airline, as far as really setting the tone for the week. And so that was for our teachers then. And so we kind of, when I transitioned into being the assistant superintendent, again, I talked to the superintendent about, hey, I want to talk to our principals and our supervisors and our directors, and to give them something to grab on to get through Monday and then focus on the rest of the week. And it's kind of evolved since then. And it really goes along, it a lot of times it's seasonal about where we are in the school calendar. But then there's just something that's on my heart that I want to share with them. A lot of it is based off of personal experience when I was either growing up or through my time in 33 years of education, things that I've seen and been a part of. And then there's things that I relate to that like have just happened. So I'm gonna give you an example. And so in April, we published our Monday Morning Memo, and it was entitled The Final Round. So this comes, this was put out on Monday morning after the final round of the Masters this past year. Okay. And so I related the final round, and I was able to make a touch point back to my experience. I was able to go to the Masters, a bucket list item, in 2021, and it allowed me to take myself back down memory lane and go through the memories that were created that day. And it was the first year back from COVID, so there was like double the amount of people. So 200,000 people on the course. And just being able to stand back and watch all these people enjoy this incredible event that was going on was something that I kept taking mental snapshot after mental snapshot after mental snapshot. And so I brought that back to life here this past April after the incredible final round that they just experienced. And so, and all of it was to bring back to the educational piece about what we're trying to do. At the Masters, you can have a great round going, and then all of a sudden you hit one in Rays Creek. Or all of a sudden you make a double on number 16 and you're out of the race. But our final round in education, everything can be going good, and all of a sudden a little bump can sidetrack you. And so the point was to not allow something like that to deter what the final goal is for what you want to accomplish, and at that juncture of time of the school year in April, the final round has yet to be finished. And so we can recompose ourselves if we've hit a bump, or if we've made a great shot, allow that momentum to carry you to the finish line. And it was one of the ones that I received the most feedback from our leadership across the district, and how it was, really put together and articulated, and where they could actually see what I was trying to share with them.
I love that. And how is this distributed or disseminated? It's just an email that's sent out on Monday to... Yeah,
I just send it. I schedule it for 5:30 every Monday morning, and it's some type of story. It's always going to be positive, encouraging. K-Love, right? That's what it's going to be. It's going to be positive and encouraging, and to have an optimistic look about the week. We don't ever want to start off. There's never anything like, you better do this, or there's none of that. It's just an encouraging message to them to let them know how much I appreciate the effort that they're giving to lead in this area, in this arena at this juncture in time. And then I usually have some type of quote or something short that maybe they can hang on to throughout the day and then to the week.
And Jason mentioned a little earlier, the 3 core principles at Bossier Schools, and he mentioned collaboration. Well, communication is the second part of the core principles. And this is just one way that he communicates internally with our district leaders, in addition to externally, not the Monday Morning Memo, but as I was mentioning, the podcast, and also the app, if we get into that, the district app, and, some other communication channels as well.
And what's the third? Tell me the third, just while we're here.
Professionalism.
Well, I'm big on professionalism. I am... I want to make sure I say this right, because I know you have a wide... I'm just not... I do not embrace the casual culture, because I think that leads to being... you can tend to be neglectful about some things. My wife and I are both... she's a retired educator now. But and if somebody asks us to do something, we're going to do it then. And most educators are wired that way, because if you don't, then you'll forget about it, and then you might not get back to it. So when somebody sends me a message, I respond, even if they don't see it at that point in time.
Ooh, that was a dig.
I try to do that, and so I never. And look, and I missed an email on June 27th at 2:00 in the afternoon. I got a very important email from the state, and I missed it, and it was something that needed to be turned in. I'm not saying I'm using this as an excuse, but I was on a plane headed to vacation, and so I really wasn't receiving emails at the time. I tried to turn that off, but we want to set an example for being professional in every aspect that we do things. We want to look the part, we want to act the part, and we want to be the part.
Are those 3 concepts, tenets, or whatever you call, are they collaboration, communication, professionalism? Are those new with your administration, or those were in place when you were assistant superintendent?
I think that's really new for me to verbalize that and to I guess promote that is the right way to say that. But I think it's always been something that's very important to me, and even without having to say it, that's something that I wanted people to see in how we do things. And then when we did get elevated in this position, Sonja and I really took on the third piece, which is probably the most critical piece, and we have tried to elevate that to no end.
The communication piece.
Yeah, and you have been.
Thank you. Glad you've noticed.
I have. All right,
trying to be out there.
So to that end, so my next question is just, what does your weekly collaboration look like, the two of you?
It's daily. Definitely daily. We text, we call, we meet face to face. And
you're in the same, are you housed
we are
in the
not,
same?
actually.
Okay.
I am in Central Bossier, and he is at the central office in Benton. But, we go back and forth quite a bit, obviously. And again, that's another form of the beauty of communication, being able to call and text at all times and also email. But we stay in constant contact. We share ideas for content for our On the Record with Bossier Schools, ideas for how we want to kick off the school year. We were talking yesterday about some ideas that we have about twas the night before the first day of school. He's going to do a special reading of a children's story that he wrote that he's going to be reading to our elementary kiddos before the first day. And also our podcast. We have all kinds of things that we are kind of fleshing out right now.
Yeah.
We spend a lot of time, and I spend a lot of time thinking about how we can do things, and look, and nothing. I didn't come up on my own. It's something I'm stealing from somebody else by listening to, or watching, or reading something. But you mentioned about our relationship and how we do things. I have a tremendous amount of belief and faith and trust in Sonja, right? And so I know things are going to be done right. They're going to be done professional. They're going to be done with the context of what the situation that we're dealing with. And I don't want anybody to think that that's all I think about all day long is communication and how we're going to do this and what we're going to do with the podcast. That's just one piece of what we do. But I'm able to trust her with making sure that we can continue to promote and move forward and develop in what we're doing. Here's a piece about what she does that is so critical, that makes her skill set so unique, that probably a lot of people do not have this and not blessed with this. But I came to realize when we were in Washington that there's two aspects of what she has to do as a communications and media officer, right? She has to be able to be transparent to the community while also being protective of the system. Now, this is an extremely thin line you have to walk, and it takes a skilled professional, a very skilled professional, to be able to walk that line where we want to be transparent, but we also have to remain protective of our school system, whether it be policy, law, or et cetera, on down the line. But also we want our community to be able to see, hey, we have nothing. We're an open book, so you can trust us.
I love that. Bossier Parish is booming. Talk to me, if you could, about how this growth is impacting enrollment and your overall approach to overseeing Bossier Schools.
You want me to start?
Yeah, sure.
So just recently, we had our demographer come in to do a 10-year student projection report, just to see where we're heading, what we can expect in terms of growth. We already know that we are growing in two particular sectors, and that being to the east, which would be our Houghton area, but also to our north in Benton. We're seeing explosive student enrollment in those two areas. And so that's where you have seen new schools being constructed. And we're planning an addition right now at Benton High School, a classroom wing in the near future. But what the demographic report revealed to us is we're going to continue on that growth track. And by 2031, it's anticipated that we're going to gain another 1,300 students. So we can't wait until that time. We have to
pause there one sec.
Sure.
So 2031, I just want to make sure people hear this. So by 2031, which is only 6 years away, Bossier Parish will have another 1,300 students. I just want to reinforce that.
Right.
That's pretty incredible and amazing.
It is. And if all of those students, were at one school, that would populate an entire high school for the most part. They are spread out. But so we are meeting as a long-range planning committee about what we need to do to be able to prepare for that, be proactive. We don't ever want to be reactive to growth. And so our board, we're also, working with them to make sure that we have the adequate space to accommodate that.
A lot of the things that from my perspective that we have to work on is how to manage the densification of what's happening in certain communities, right? In certain areas of Bossier Parish. And so that becomes, that is a slippery slope in how we can continue to shuffle resources that are available to us already. And but we've got a great team that collaborates, and we see the issues, or we try to look down the corridor of time and see what's coming, and we try to get out in front of it, develop plans to make sure that when that time does come, we have either hit the mark and we are prepared for what's going to happen. So there's a lot of that goes on in literally every aspect of our school system, and that's one thing that we take great pride in, is having a lot of really, really, really bright people that are sharp and have great ideas that and that are not afraid to share their ideas, because they have a security and a trust that they're going to be heard. And we just very well may use exactly what one person says, and so there are no bad ideas, and that's one thing that makes us unique. But we are excited about the growth. We think we can manage. We have a plan to manage it, and it's just not a plane going straight up in the air either. It's a subtle rise as we continue to go. Hefner gave in his report out to one he gave out to 2,100. He gave us projections out to the year 2,100. Wow. Yeah, and I was like, I don't really care what happens at 2,100, but I mean, Bossier's going to be, 250,000 people. Yeah, it'll be as large or larger than Shreveport, according to Mike Hefner, in 2,100. But I don't think any of us will be around to see what goes on in 2,100.
Unfortunately. No. That's amazing that he forecasts that far out.
It's funny.
All right, so this is what I didn't want Sonja to spoil earlier. Okay, so Jason, you were recently selected by the National School Public Relations Association as one of the top 25 superintendents to watch in the country. I read something that I thought was just incredible, that when school started last year, you boarded a school bus and visited all 34 Bossier School campuses in 2 days to offer words of encouragement. And so my question simply, what does being a great superintendent and leader mean to you?
Well, that's a great question, Jeffrey. So there's a difference in leadership and authority. There's a difference in that. So leadership is someone that cares about, number one, what they're doing, cares about the people that they're working with, and they have the overall mission, if you will. The overall system is the priority. It's not themselves. Authority is much different. Authority is telling people what to do, more worried about themselves. The mission is second to themselves. So it's an inward deal. So I try to keep in mind the leadership facet of what it means to be a superintendent. Look, I'm going into part of year 3 as a superintendent, and I have a long way to go. And I think understanding that and realizing that the job continues to humble me every day, and as long as it continues to do that, then I'm in a good space, right? I don't think you ever arrive at anything that you're doing, and that's something that I personally believe, that I can always improve, I can always be better, and I always want to be better. And when the day comes when I don't have the desire to become a better leader and superintendent for the school system, that's the time that when I'm going to retire. And so, and then in saying that, if I can admit that from myself, then hopefully our directors and our supervisors and our coordinators and our principals and our assistant principals and our teachers and our pairs and all across our system can take on the same mindset that I want to be better today than I was yesterday.
And let me hop in and just say, he is definitely inspirational. I laugh because early in his superintendency, somebody said, "What's it like to work with him?" And I said, "Well, I'll just say that I move fast, but he moves faster." But, that inspires me. It inspires, everyone that falls under his leadership, because he gives us the autonomy to, be able to do what we do in the way that we see fit, as long as it elevates Bossier Schools. And somebody used a quote the other day that I love. I'm a big quote person. And it said, "The ceiling today will be the floor tomorrow." So we're constantly reaching for the ceiling under his leadership. And I know that tomorrow, that's just going to be what's expected. And we're going to be looking to achieve to reach that new ceiling.
It's a great quote.
Yeah.
Jeff, you talk about the superintendent side of it. And I think the superintendent part is the title. The leadership is what people really need. And I think what people want, even in a casual culture, right? That we're living in today. So, being the superintendent part of it is and look, I've got a lot to work on, but like this year, for example, we did a lot of stuff last year. We did pay raise, we did, building projects. We did a lot of stuff that the public sees and that our teachers will enjoy and benefit from. But now we've kind of pivoted a little bit, and we're focusing on what happens inside the walls, the teaching and learning aspect of it. And so my ability to gain knowledge in how we're going to be a standards-based education, and what we're going to do with teacher collaborations, and how we're going to have proficiency exams, and making sure that we're staying on top of that. See, that's another whole element of what I'm going to do this coming year. Again, growing as a leader, while we continue to grow in communications, while we continue to grow in professionalism and things like that. So there's a lot of layers to it, but I've got a long way to go, and I'm just going to keep trying to take people with me to make sure we get where we want to be.
Challenges are good. Otherwise, you remain stagnant.
Absolutely. And I'm a kind of, I don't know, just as you're talking, I'm thinking about this. You both have kind of, in some ways, jobs that are bigger than you. Jobs that can never be perfected, jobs that can never be fully conquered, which on one hand can be very daunting and intimidating and frustrating, but on the other can be what keeps it interesting and challenging and fresh. And so I'm just curious, your own thought processes. How do you each year kind of step back and go, okay, these are the areas that I didn't quite conquer that are going to be my priority the next time I step up to take a swing, or the next year up?
Well, I think goal-oriented, driven people are constantly looking for a challenge. They constantly want to do something and achieve something else, right? And I'm not saying that every day I get up, there's a laundry list of goals I want to do. Yeah, there's some days I get up, I just want to survive the day, correct? But on July 1st of 2024, when I stood up that morning, I said, you know what, I want to give our teachers a pay raise. I want to find a way. And we committed to doing that. Our board bought in, our board committed to it. They approved the single largest in-house pay raise without any state assistance. And we found a way to do that. And so, and this year was not any different. I want us to be an A district. I want us to be better. I want us to be better than anybody else that's around us. And what is it going to take to get there? And that's when I bring the team in and say, okay, this is what we're going to do. Now let's figure out how we're going to get there. So I think that's a part of growth. That's a part, again, of being motivated to be successful. And when you are not, either it's time to do something else, because you're now hurting kids.
Yeah, and we're always looking for ways to be able to expand our platform, if you will, to get our story out there. Even though this is our 4th season in podcasting, we're still trying to find ways to tweak and refine that to grow our audience. And so that's something that we've been actively looking into. As I mentioned, we've gone a couple of times back speaking about INSPRA, the conference, and that was one of the missions of ours, was to find out how to further grow it. Of course, we find out that we're actually kind of on the cutting edge of that. But
We do.
You pick up pieces wherever you can and learn from others who are already doing it successfully.
Yeah, and it sounds like, just listening to both of you, it just sounds like being willing to consistently ask yourself, how can I be better? Mm-hmm. How can I do this better? And whatever how can I be a better leader? How can I be a better superintendent? How can I be a better communicator? How can I be a better podcaster? Just being willing to say, I'm doing good, but how can I be better?
Like you said, we never truly arrive. We never completely cross the finish line.
Yeah. And this is my final formal question. One of the recurring themes on this podcast is about how many of our young people leave after school, never to return to this region. And so my question is simply, how can we do a better job at holding on to our best and brightest?
They have to have opportunities, first of all. I'm going to let you springboard on that about the educational experience and opportunities that we offer.
Well, I think, first of all, one of the things that I hear, whether it be at church or in the community or whatever, is people will talk about, I've heard this too many times, there's nothing to do here. Well, okay. So what do you want to do? That's the question I ask. So what do you want to do? Well, there's nothing to do there's nothing for young people to do here. I said, okay, so where are you going to go? Well, the main answer is Dallas. Let's just use that for example. And so you're going to go and you're going to be stuck on a parking lot interstate with 8 million people just to go play Topgolf when you go right here and play Chasing Aces, which is just as much fun in a smaller setting where you can move around, where you have a fantastic school system. And so I try to bring to light the benefits of being in what I would say a mid-sized community versus, 8 million people in Dallas, right? And so if people really investigate what's going on, there's going to be tremendous job opportunities in Bossier Parish. So what Mike called it the other day, the cyber corridor, is that what I-20 is really being referenced as now? If you look to see what's going to happen with CIC and what happens around Global Strike and what happens just on that I-20 corridor, there's a chip factory being built in Rayville. And there's some really, 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 we hope, big news it's going to be for Bossier Parish as we get toward the end of the year. Not going to spoil that here today because I can't, but that are really going to elevate and give some job opportunities here. And look, we understand not everybody's meant to go to college. We've embraced that fact. So we have the finest CTE school in the state of Louisiana, and we are putting our students are coming out ready to go to the workforce. They are trained. They have all their IBCs. They have all the credentials they need. They can go straight into a good paying job. And I think what's going to happen, and we're going to see in Bossier Parish, are more opportunities for people to come to Bossier Parish and then to stay in Bossier Parish.
And we're going to make sure that we provide the best educational experience for the children who are in Bossier Parish schools. I think that's an interesting fact. The last census report showed that 92% of all school-age children living in the parish of Bossier attend the Bossier Schools public school district. And I think that speaks volumes because families understand the value of the education that their children are receiving. Not only the education, because, it also goes beyond the academics, if you will. It's the extras. It's the extracurriculars. JROTC. There are so many different opportunities, in athletics, in our band, our choir program, I3 Art Expo, which, again, we go back to community support because that is solely driven by support from our community and sponsorships to be able to host a 3-day student showcase at the Bossier Civic Center. We meet students where they are. We try to meet them where their interests are and be able to give them opportunities to be able to further grow that. Distance learning, that's something that we launched last school year and we're expanding this school year. Not every campus would be able to have a teacher who can instruct them in American Sign Language. So now we have a distance learning teacher, based one place, but then they all go to their respective classrooms on campus and they dial in virtually, if you will. And now we're teaching American Sign Language 1 and 2, forensic science, AP physics, the list goes on, that they're being able to get credit for and not be limited because of geographics.
It's amazing. And you're evolving. I mean, all the time, just, where are there gaps? What are we not offering? What's the newest thing that we need to evolve to? And I mean, you're constantly iterating and moving forward to meet those needs and meet the students where they are.
And to your point, and also Jason's, because he mentioned our career and technical education program at Barksdale, we are working directly with our workforce. We have an advisory council that is comprised of business leaders, and we pair them with the programs that we offer at Barksdale, which is Bossier Parish School for Technology and Innovative Learning. Our students then know what skills are needed to be able to have a seamless transition into the workforce, and how does that benefit our workforce in turn? Our students are coming out of school with valuable industry-based certifications. They acquired over 3,000 IBCs last year. That's a huge number. That saves our employers money because their employees have to have certain certifications. If our students come with those already in hand, they're not having to train them and spend money to be able to bring them up to speed. So that already gives our students a leg up.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you guys, it's such a treat and honor having both of you here again on a Saturday. I'm so grateful. Those were my set questions today. But as I told you before we started, are there other things or anything else that you want to mention that I failed to hit? I mean, you're doing extraordinary work. I have the utmost admiration for what you're doing and what you're asked to do each and every day and each and every year. And so if there's anything else you want to share, by all means, you have all the time.
Two things, Jeffrey, that I think are critical to our students in Bossier, but also to students all across the country. So since COVID, absenteeism is a national issue. Chronic absenteeism is something that's real, okay? And so we are creating a lot of different initiatives in Bossier Parish to ensure that our students are in school. There's a lot of different incentives for kids to make sure they come to school. And I wish every parent in Northwest Louisiana could hear your podcast and what I'm about to say. But the value and the importance of creating good habits about getting up and coming to school. I tell people all the time, the easiest thing that you'll do all day is simply get up. It's the first thing you do, right? And get up and come to school, because the things that we have to offer, if you're not there, then it falls on deaf ears. There's no way you can learn and you can be educated and you can have the experience that we're wanting to provide if the student is not in school. And so many times, our parents don't understand, or they don't grasp the value in setting good habits as a young child. In that, look, I'm going to school every day. Yeah, I might not feel well today, but I'm still going to school. Because that carries over into the workforce. That carries over into their commitment to a job, to a spouse, to a family one day. And so we try to build good habits, and we're making a big deal about attendance in Bossier Parish, and a lot of school districts are going to do the same. Chronic absenteeism across the country is at 30%.
Wow.
30% of kids are chronically absent. In Louisiana, the number's a little bit lower. It's 21%. But we don't like the number in Bossier Parish. We don't like it at all, because we want every child to be successful. And to be successful, you have to come to, if you just come to school, we will take care of the rest of it.
Would you guess how many days missed is considered chronic absenteeism?
I was trying to think as you were saying it.
I think
15?
You'd be surprised. 5 days in one semester. So if a child misses 5 days each semester, 10 days total, unexcused absences or tardies, that's considered chronic absenteeism. And that's actually also considered an indicator that they are not as likely to graduate with their peers. because they've lost ground. And it starts even as young as elementary school. You know, a lot of us wouldn't think there's any harm to, you know, check our child out for a dentist appointment or what have you. And you know what, since it's at 11 o'clock, let's just let them stay home. It's easier. We'll check them back in after lunchtime. They have missed a huge amount of foundational learning. And you know, once you miss something, it's hard to catch back up. And so that's why it's so important to have our children in class every day, because they are learning so much. That's their job, is to be able to learn.
And those good habits. And
right.
Just getting accustomed to, this is what I do.
Which then follow them into the workforce,
right.
because you have to be at work every day.
Yeah.
So let's say we do see a great success in getting kids in school this year, and that's our goal, and we plan to meet it. But what about determines the student's engagement? Now, this is a subject that we all know. It's the elephant in the room, but it's something that we also need to address. So, state law, there's no cell phones out in school, stuff like that, and we try to do a really good job of making sure we enforce that. So what's happening now is kids are coming to school, but they're sleeping all day long. They're not engaged. They don't have the energy that it takes to learn and take ownership of their learning. And the simple reason is because they're spending all night on their phone. They're spending all night awake doing something on their phone, or till 3 or 4 in the morning. Well, sure, when the alarm clock goes off at 6:30 to get up, well, they've only been asleep for a couple of hours. And that's something that's real, and that happens all the time in homes all over the state, in Northwest Louisiana, in Bossier Parish. And so I hope our parents will be a little more cognitive of the fact that, you know what, that phone might need to stay in here in my room so they will get a good night's rest. I did a podcast with a lady from Columbia University, and she said, Mr. Rowland, if there's anything you could do in Louisiana to improve education and test scores, what would it be? Come to school, get a good night's rest. I know it's not something that you wanted to hear, but if you just get them here ready to go, we'll take care of the rest.
I think we should end on that.
I think so. That's great. I can't top you on that one, Mr. Rowland.
Well, we're super passionate about public schools, and 80% of the students around the nation go to public schools. And I was on a call yesterday that was talking about all the choice options. And not only are we in a casual culture, we're also in a choice culture as well. And so I began to think about, I was listening to the charter type 1, type 2 charters, the homeschool diversion, the virtual platforms, and now even to some extent this Louisiana Gator, which I don't give a lot of credence to much of the choice options, because I'm so bullish on what Bossier Parish schools do for kids, that we are the best option, because we have the trained professionals at every level to meet the needs of every student in our system, to meet the needs of every student in our parish. We are more equipped, we're better trained, and we have more resources to benefit the child to get the education they need and to have the experience that will last them a lifetime. And so for my and I know I'm biased about it, but our public school system is one of the grandest in the state for what we try to do for young people. We may not have the highest test score yet. We may not be exactly where we want to be yet, but what we try to do for kids is truly unique, and it's special to be a part of. And we invite everybody to come on. We got room for you. We'll make room. Come be a part of what we're doing.
We like to say that Bossier Schools is not just an option, but the option.
Maybe we have to end on that note. Well, I'm so grateful to have you both here today, and very grateful for your service to this community. This community is so fortunate to have both of you in your positions. You guys are doing extraordinary work in Bossier, and just keep it up. I don't need to tell you that, because I know you're going to, but thank you again for being here.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
Thank you, Jeffrey. It's our honor and our pleasure, and we appreciate what you're doing and allowing us to come share our story on your podcast. Thank you, sir.